Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside will be mild today, with a high of 58.2 degrees and a low of 53.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Coming up, we'll examine the challenges facing Donald Trump's proposal to dismantle the Department of Education and what that could mean for America's school system. We'll also explore why the United States Postal Service has decided to stop accepting certain packages from China and how this decision impacts consumers. Plus, we'll look at promising medical advances as researchers develop a new spine implant that could offer hope for patients with neurodegenerative diseases. All this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. We begin tonight with a developing story from Washington about former President Trump's latest initiative targeting the Department of Education. Joining us now is our political correspondent, Ethan Parker. Ethan, what can you tell us about this plan?
Grace, according to CNN's reporting, Trump is actively preparing an executive order aimed at dismantling the Department of Education, and he's already set things in motion by directing his Education Secretary nominee, Linda McMahon, to essentially work toward eliminating her own position.
That's quite a directive. Can you explain what exactly the Department of Education does and what's at stake here?
Well, Grace, the BBC reports that the Department of Education, which has been operating since 1979, currently manages a substantial $238 billion budget for fiscal year 2024. Despite being our smallest cabinet-level department, with about 4,400 employees, its impact is enormous. According to the NEA, eliminating this department could result in the loss of 180,000 teaching positions nationwide and disrupt special education services for approximately 7.5 million students.
Those are significant numbers, Ethan. What's the likelihood of this plan actually succeeding?
That's an important question, Grace. History shows us this won't be easy. The BBC points out that similar attempts, including one by President Reagan in the 1980s, have failed to gain traction. Any complete dismantling would require congressional approval with a supermajority of 60 senators. In fact, a previous vote on this issue failed when 60 Republicans joined Democrats in opposition.
Yet it seems Trump's team is moving forward anyway. What steps have they already taken?
According to CNN's investigation, the administration is collaborating with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency on this initiative. They've already placed dozens of Education Department employees on administrative leave, particularly targeting those involved in diversity and inclusion programs.
What's been the public reaction to this proposal?
The NEA reports that there's significant opposition, with over 60% of voters against eliminating the department. NEA President Becky Pringle has been particularly vocal in her criticism, and we're seeing educators and parents organizing to resist these changes, primarily concerned about the impact on low-income and marginalized communities.
Thank you for that comprehensive overview, Ethan. We'll certainly be following this story as it develops. We turn now to a developing story affecting international shipping and e-commerce. The United States Postal Service has just implemented a major change in its operations with China. Joining us to explain is our business correspondent, Chloe Chen. Chloe, what can you tell us about this suspension?
Grace, according to U.S. News and World Report, the United States Postal Service has just suspended all inbound parcel acceptance from both China and Hong Kong, effective this month. This is a significant development that's already sending ripples through the e-commerce industry.
What's driving this decision, Chloe?
Well, Associated Press reporting indicates this comes on the heels of two major policy changes: a new 10% tariff on Chinese goods and the elimination of what's called the de minimis exemption. That exemption previously allowed packages valued under $800 to enter the U.S. without taxes.
How significant is this volume of packages we're talking about?
The numbers are staggering, Grace. According to KXLG, in 2024 alone, we saw over 1.36 billion of these de minimis shipments entering the U.S., with about 61%, that's roughly 830 million packages, coming from China. The total value was projected to hit $78 billion by the end of 2024.
And what about major retailers like Shein and Temu? How are they affected?
WNKY's reporting suggests Shein is likely to face the bigger challenge here, as they've heavily relied on USPS for their direct-to-consumer shipping model. Temu might weather this better because they already use bulk shipping and have domestic fulfillment centers. Both companies are looking at increased logistics costs, though, potentially 15 to 30% higher.
What alternatives do these companies have?
They'll need to turn to private carriers like UPS, FedEx, and DHL. But that comes at a cost. We're looking at shipping fees ranging from $10 to $30 per package, significantly higher than USPS rates. It's worth noting that for USPS itself, international mail generated about $2.7 billion in revenue, representing 3.9% of their total revenues.
And is there any indication of how long this suspension might last?
That's still unclear, Grace. While Canada and Mexico, which are facing even higher tariffs at 25%, have managed to negotiate a 1-month grace period, there's no specified end date for this China suspension. China's foreign ministry has already criticized the move, calling it a politicization of economic issues.
Thank you for that comprehensive breakdown, Chloe. We'll be sure to keep our viewers updated as this story develops. Here are some other headlines. In what marks Sweden's deadliest mass shooting, at least 11 people lost their lives yesterday at an adult education facility. The gunman was among the dead, with several others wounded. Authorities are still investigating the motive behind this tragic incident. Scientists have finally cracked the mystery of sea turtles' so-called lost years. A groundbreaking study from the University of Central Florida tracked 114 young turtles in the Gulf of Mexico using satellite technology. The research revealed that, contrary to previous beliefs, young turtles actively navigate their environment rather than simply drifting with ocean currents. This discovery helps explain what happens between the time hatchlings leave their nesting beaches and return as nearly grown turtles. A new Associated Press survey has revealed that more than a third of Black NFL players feel discouraged by the lack of Black coaches in the league. This finding comes despite the NFL's long-standing Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview minority candidates for coaching positions. Research has shown that the colors we see significantly influence our food choices and eating habits. Scientists have found that people associate certain colors with specific tastes, red with sweetness, green with acidity, and that these associations affect both appetite and food selection. The study also indicates that environmental factors, such as table settings and packaging colors, play a crucial role in our perception of food. In immigration news, the first military flight carrying deported migrants has landed at Guantanamo Bay. This development marks a significant shift in U.S. deportation procedures, utilizing the naval base in Cuba as a new destination for migrant deportation flights. In our third story this morning, a remarkable medical breakthrough is offering new hope for patients with spinal muscular atrophy. Joining us now with more details is our medical correspondent, Ethan Parker. Ethan, tell us about this innovative treatment.
Thanks, Grace. According to research just published in Nature Medicine, scientists at the University of Pittsburgh have developed what could be a game-changing treatment using spinal cord stimulation. They've been testing a device that delivers low-level electrical pulses to the spinal cord of patients with spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA.
For our viewers who might not be familiar, can you explain what SMA is?
Of course. SMA is a genetic disease that attacks motor neurons, leading to progressive muscle weakness. As reported by the Dayton Daily News, this condition typically worsens over time, which makes these study results particularly exciting.
And what exactly were those results, Ethan?
Well, Grace, the research team conducted a month-long pilot study with 3 adult participants. According to KPRC2's reporting, they underwent 19 stimulation sessions over 29 days. One participant, 57-year-old Doug McCullough from Franklin Park, New Jersey, reported significant improvements, something remarkable for a typically progressive disease.
What specific improvements did the researchers observe?
The participants showed several notable improvements. They could walk longer distances, stand up more easily from a kneeling position, and experienced less fatigue. The lead researcher, Marco Capogrosso, noted that these improvements continued throughout the study period, and, interestingly, the benefits didn't immediately disappear when they turned off the stimulator.
That sounds promising, but are there any limitations to this study?
Yes, there are some important caveats. As reported through the Perplexity API, the study's small sample size of just 3 participants and its relatively short duration of 1 month make it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about long-term effectiveness and safety. There's also the challenge of controlling for placebo effects, as patients can typically tell when the stimulation is active.
How does this compare to other similar studies?
Previous spinal cord stimulation trials for other conditions have typically been more extensive. For instance, studies involving Parkinson's disease have included up to 15 patients, and research on prolonged disorder of consciousness has involved 31 patients with longer follow-up periods.
Thank you for breaking this down for us, Ethan. We'll certainly be watching for future developments in this promising research.
You're welcome, Grace. Back to you.
That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King, with Claude Sonnet 3.5, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.